Hello and welcome to another installment of Scuffed Setup. Vacation is vacation, but work is work, and I want to make this video, so if anything is different or wrong in the video or audio, you know why. It's the same thing that happened with my Novelette review. I'm just in a different place because of vacation, and yeah. Anyway, welcome to the 5.7 Abyss and Imaginarium Theater review, or July 2025 Abyss and Imaginarium Theater. Yes, no Stygian Ocelot, because after experiencing it, I think it's more suited for the version review, seeing as also it apparently is going to be taking one of the event slots, which has not made people very happy at all. But you will have to wait for that on my views on it on the next video, which will be the version review. Alright, with that out of the way, my general thoughts on this Abyss and Imaginarium Theater is that it was easier than the hells that we have been going through in the latest versions. Although I think that is because of those previous Abysses, we were going into this one with, like 110% of focus, even though we didn't need to in the end. By that I mean that we got so used to the bullshit time-wasting stuff in the other Abysses that in this one that has slightly less bullshit time-wasting stuff, it feels much easier. But looking at the banners, you would think that this Abyss would be the worst of the worst, with Skirk and Mavuika on them, two units that they really, of course, wanted to push for meta. You would think, again, that we would have to go through absolute hell for this Abyss, but I guess they decided that July was going to be the chill one. Are they doing it because July is my birthday month? Nah, hell nah. So, let's dive in and see what this Abyss had in store for us. But just a very small side note for the background footage. I don't know who had it out for me, but for some reason, the day I decided to do the Abyss, my internet decided to shit the bed completely. So in the first half of the background footage, you will see a lot of weird stuff happening, since if you pay attention to the ping on the top right, I was constantly getting disconnects. So just wanted to point that out. So, Floor 11 is first as always, and we are close to a major version release, so we will soon have a change in floors 9 and 10, but for now we still are gonna begin with floor 11. 11-1 is back with a monolith defense, and a pretty easy one at that. The first half is just a few waves of Natlan tribes people warriors that don't really pose much of a threat to the monolith. As you will see in the background footage, they managed to get like one hit in, although running Aventi and Kazra, you would expect them to not be able to get hits in, but still the waves are pretty easy to clear, and for the second half of 11-1, it's just two of the Natlan automatons, each in their own wave, and they are even easier than the tribe's warriors, since if you stand in front of them, they will only target you. 11-2 is an interesting one, I have to say. The first half is this weird combo of Sumeru mushrooms followed by two Fontaine sea creatures, and then one after the other is an Electro and Geolagua churl. I don't know who thought of this weird combo. It's not difficult, nor does it really need any elemental counters, as their HP is so low here in floor 11 that you will kill these enemies before their shield breaks. But it's such a weird combo, so a very weird first half. And then in the second one is a Cryo Lava Churl followed by a Hydro Eidolon non-local legend variant, so it's nothing much. So yeah, 11-2 is very weird. The first half is just one of the weirdest combos I have ever seen. And the second half, as long as your main DPS isn't Hydro, you'll be fine. And to finish off with 11-3, we have Mago Kinky in the first half, which is very surprising to see. Not that he is any difficult, although I am kind of missing triple Genki lately. And the second half is three waves of one enemy each, starting with a Mirror Maiden, going to a Consecrated Crocodile, the Hydro-resistant version. They really just hate Hydro this patch. And finishing off with an Eremite Spirit Spawner, which is the Scorpion Lady. Both halves are not a problem. Mago Kinky is super easy in floor 11, and the mobs in the second half, once again, as long as your main DPS isn't Hydro, you're going to be fine. So overall, floor 11 wasn't anything special. The monolith is pretty easy. There is some weirdness in 11-2, but it's not any wall that will stop anybody from completing it, and 11-3 isn't anything special either, with some pretty simple enemies. So, let's move on to floor 12, and first is the buffs for this cycle. We have, for the first halves, a 75% damage increase to any cryo damage. That is a huge buff for all cryo characters, and even infusers, which should be, Anemo Infuser, which should be very, very helpful. And for the second halves, we have 75% damage increase to Night Soul damage, which, yeah, they have to, they really need to sell Mavuika to you, I guess. But hopefully, no, the Christ mechanic is not going to be like this. Even though Inefa is not making things look good, not gonna lie. Anyway, the buffs are okay, but as you will see, they actually aren't needed that much since the enemies aren't that time wasting. But thankfully, the first half is extremely generalist with any cryo character. I mean, even your supports, I guess, are gonna add just a little bit of extra damage. But, you know, any sort of cryo character, even our older cryo DPSs, are going to really love the 75% increase to all of their damage, even if you're not running the prime cryo support. And then, I mean, Night Soul is Night Soul again. They're mainly gonna, you know, want to sell you Mavuika since it's rerunning this patch. But you can also use other, you know, Night Soul characters, sub DPSs. Anyway, but as I said, the enemies in the second halves aren't the worst, so the Night Soul damage buff actually doesn't matter that much. So, to start with 12-1, we have the Automaton Overseer device, because this thing has completely become the cryo shield boss. There's cryo in the banners, throw this bitch in, but in the Abyss, it's a complete pushover, which is a hint at my Stygian Onslaught review, but yes, in the Abyss, it's extremely easy. You don't need a ton of cryo to lower its energy bar, and also it doesn't immediately gain resistances because it has a pixel of energy accumulated. And since this is 12-1, it also doesn't have the highest amount of HP like it did in the previous Abyss, which was in 12-3. Now, I have to say, I saw a lot of people say that they tried the Night Soul way of beating this boss, where it will apparently switch to a more aggressive mode, but it will lower its resistances, although it's not as much as hitting it with cryo. Like, the resistance with cryo is 0, but with the Night Soul thingy, it's 50%. But I have no fucking idea to tell you how the fuck to trigger this Night Soul thingy. I mean, even in clips on Twitter and other stuff that I saw of people, you know, bringing Night Soul characters, I never saw this thing go into some sort of aggressive mode. I even tried it, a friend tried it with Kinich, I tried it with Autoron or something, nothing. Like, I have no idea how the fuck to trigger its Night Soul thingy. And if triggering the Night Soul thingy is after it does its energy accumulation thingy, well, you're kind of fucked, because the energy accumulation phase is immediately at the beginning, it lasts for a long time, and the damage of the lasers literally one-shots you. So, like, I have no idea what people were saying with, oh, you don't need cryo on this, because, like, no. Like, I don't know. Anyways, it's super easy. Like, again, if you haven't encountered this boss yet for whatever reason, it will start by accumulating energy, and you need to hit it with cryo to keep its resistances low, and also it stops the laser attack. And it just doesn't need anything. Like, a fucking Diona with a sacrificial bow, and then her ultimate should be plenty enough if you don't want to necessarily bring a cryo on-fielder, which could be a support, could be a catalyst like Charlotte. So yeah, like, it's a super easy boss, and in 12-1, it's a pushover. Second half, though, is not as simple. The half begins with 3 Sauruses, the bat ones, and following them is the Spirit Seeker boss, the lady that splits into cryo clones from Natlan. She was here last time, so you should know how to take care of her, but long story short, any amount of pyro will easily take care of the clones. Or if you want, get Bennett and John and just stare at the clones as they teleport into the fire death pit and get destroyed. But yeah, any sort of pyro will easily do it. Electro can do fine, although it really depends on the Electro character that you will bring in order to destroy the clones, but pyro is the super easy is the super easy counter. This is the main pain point of the chamber. The Overseer device is a giant punching bag, as we said, so you won't take much time to clear it. The sources are extremely simple and low on HP, so they don't really matter. It's just the whole clone thing that will take your time. After that, the boss is piss easy, although she does move around during her attacks, which can be annoying. But it's 12-1, so you should manage. I would say that if she goes for a second clone split attack, you most likely are not dealing with her in time, but that does depend on your first half clear. If you just deleted the Overseer device with somebody like Skirk and her Prime team, then I think you can bring a lower damage team on the second half, and you most likely will have enough time even if she does her second clone attack, but usually you would like to clear the boss before she does the second time. 12-2 is, in my opinion, the main pain point for a lot of teams this Abyss. Saying that, as it can stop quite a few team comps from easily clearing the Abyss. Let's see the enemies and I'll explain it to you. The first half is just 3 waves of Ruin enemies. 1 Greater, 1 Drake ground type, and 1 Fontaine Mecha, the one that spins around with the Pyro. It's an extremely simple half. The second half is the pain point, as it's also 3 waves of enemies, but this time they begin with an Eremite Spirit Spawner with the Crocodile, followed by a Cryo Way-Up, and finishing off with 2 Avatars of Lava, the non-Pyro infused version. That Way-Up is just a pain in the ass, and it is, again, the pain point, as I mentioned, mainly for any burst-reliant comps, say somebody like Xiao, because you will most likely use up your bursts to kill the Eremite guy quickly, but then there is just not enough time to set up a burst to destroy the Way-Up's shield, again on super burst-reliant comps like Xiao. It's not an impossible type of chamber, that's not what I am trying to say. But as you understood by my example, it's just the main pain point for comps that would otherwise easily steamroll the second halves. And honestly, the 2 Avatars of Lava are very unnecessary. But yeah, like, my Xiao team would just obliterate all of the second halves. Like, even the Overseer, I can bring Bennett and Shan for him. They are both great buffers for Xiao. But again, the Way-Up just doesn't do it. I'll use my bursts to kill the Eremite real quickly, and then just as Xiao's burst is about to end, the Way-Up spawns and it's up my energy. Like, it's that sort of thing that, again, my Xiao team could easily just obliterate the other halves. Now, of course, if you've completed the second chamber and you want to use a burst-reliant, powerful team that you have for the other chambers, then of course go ahead, right? That's it. But again, it's just sort of the thing that we have that, 2 teams need to complete the entire Abyss kind of thing, right? Anyways, so yeah, so that's about it for 12-2. Again, as I said, it's sort of the pain point that I see for this Abyss, but it's not super tough. The Cryo Way-Up, if you just funnel some energy on the Eremite as he dies on many team comps that rely on just 1 burst, let's say, of some sort of like sub DPS, then the Way-Up just fucking dies. Like, it's not tough. So, to finish off the Abyss with 12-3, we have one of, if not the most weird and fucked up first half, with 2 Way-Ups, 1 Geo and 1 Electro at the same time in opposing sides of the arena. Thanks. Okay, it's not complete hell, but that's why you got those Ruin enemies on 12-2 to funnel energy, because they Ruin enemies get you a lot of energy particles, and yeah, they're there to funnel energy and get ready for this chamber. Or you Skirk, but it's actually pretty simple on how you should deal with the Way-Ups. Choose one and focus it. Since they are in opposite sides of the arena, only 1 Way-Up will drain your energy, so once you break one of the shields, you will have your bursts back up. But main thing is to choose the Way-Up you don't have counters for. If you aren't running a Geo character or Claymore characters, it would be best to go for the Geo one since you don't have the counters for its shield. If you have those, maybe go for the Electro one. You most likely brought Cryo because over the Overseer device, so you have the counter for the Electro Way-Up and its shield, so again, focus the Geo one. Or if you have somebody, let's say, Chongyun, you brought Chongyun for the Overseer device because he's actually a pretty decent counter, especially if you have a character to infuse their attacks. You have the counters, you have a Claymore character with some good hits for the Geo one if you want to quickly finish the Electro one, stuff like that. It would be best to go for the one that you do not have the counters for. And it's that simple, and not only that, but the other Way-Up will come to your side, so you don't need to dash to get to it, and hell, you might even get to damage its shield while you kill the one you chose to focus. So while I wasn't expecting this combo at all in this sort of way, I thought it was going to be one at a time, it turns out it wasn't much of a problem once the initial shock wore off. And the second half is very generous, as it contains 3 Yamkasauruses and followed by the fat fucking Mountain King. As said, very generous since you got simple enemies before the boss, and the Mountain King has his self-damaging mechanic, making the fight very forgiving, so even with 2 Way-Ups on the first half, 12-3 ends up not that tough to go through, and thankfully, the enemies in the second halves don't require you to use the damage buff to deal with them, because let's be honest, You see Night Soul damage buff, and you expect the most Natlan shield enemies, but that didn't happen this time, so that's really nice. So yeah, as for the Mountain King, by the way, Kazuha or Jan can do Pyro Swirls, so that's really good if you do not want to bring a Pyro character to deal damage. So yeah, like, because the floor is on fire, their Kazuha's infusing mechanic works because he hits himself first, and Pyro takes the priority, and then Jan will constantly swirl, and Jan will constantly cleanse with her burst. So again, if you don't need to bring a Pyro carry against the Phantom Mountain King, you can actually do these sort of tricks. Anyway, overall, floor 12 went easy on us this time. The first halves are okay, even if they end up in that weird combo, and the Overseer device is kind of annoying with its need of cryo, but it doesn't need a lot of cryo. And the buff is really good and generalist, as said. And the second halves are not complete time wasters, allowing you to experiment a bit with the way you will tackle them. So, time for Imaginarium Theater. This time, the element combo was one of the combos that we all knew was gonna be very easy. Pyro, Cryo, and Hydro just busted all around, and full of great characters. So they decided to add some pretty tough enemies, and also make sure that the trial characters were complete dogshit to make up for that. So, about those starting characters, boy oh boy, they dealt no damage whatsoever, and the builds were so bad, holy. So, we start with Lini, who is using Scion of the Blazing Sun, which is the Battle Pass weapon, which is not a bad choice at all for him, alongside Mario's Hunter, of course, but he dealt no damage whatsoever. I swear my Bennett would deal more damage than him. I mean, Lini never had the title for crazy pyro DPS at any point, but this build made him look like a 4-star, I swear. Following along is Youngling running Dragon's Bane, which is fine, but there are better options, honestly, and she is running a 2-piece Noblesse and 2-piece Crimson Witch combo, which I have to ask if the dev that decided on this, maybe he needs to visit a psychiatrist, because what the fuck is wrong with his brain to put this build into Youngling? Just give her 4 Emblem of Severed Fate and give her the catch. Like, it's simple as that, right? After this, Abomination is Child with Rust, which honestly we gotta stop using Rust on him, especially at R1, it's garbage. The Battle Pass bow Viridescent Hunt is much better for him on the stats, and he's running his new set, which is fine. Then is Dahlia. And less is more here, for him, because he's useless, except for using Noblesse, and that's the least he could do. And finishing off with the cryo characters is Risley, running Solar Pearl, again, a weapon he can't use at all, and I want to kill the dev that put this weapon on him, alongside Mario's Hunter, which you would expect, and Rosaria, running physical DPS when there is no Electro, and also it's physical Rosaria. Why in the ever-loving fuck would you run this build? Just build her for cryo application through her burst, and some okay damage. Like, why? Why physical? There's no Electro in this fucking Imaginarium Theater. Why? And it's physical Rosaria. She's not there for, goddammit. So as said, they made sure their starting cast was horrendous for this element combo, and if you got super unlucky like me with the starting acts, you were in for a pretty hellish time, because I don't know who thought that in the starting acts, there should be a monolith defense with 2 Mitachurls and 1 Lava Churl, and when you think that killing the Lava Churl would spawn in another one, nope! Just killing the Mitachurls does. So it's impossible to beat this act. I don't know if you've played this act, but holy shit. And as for the bosses, they weren't the easiest bunch, I would tell you. That mainly you would need to plan ahead quite a bit, honestly, to make sure you have some good characters for them. The first boss is the Ice Swimsuit Coppelius version, so you need Pyro for his shield. Pretty simple though, since of course we have Pyro, but if you get really unlucky with your characters, you might end up like me, where I got no other of my Pyro DPSs. Not a single motherfucker. Thankfully, I had Bennett, but that was the only Pyro character I managed to get until I got to Coppelius. And as I said, Lini was doing jack fuck all, so I had to run National for this boss, the classic. I had Jianling, Xingqiu, and Bennett. And I forgot the last member. I don't remember. It actually might have been Chongyun, I'm not even joking. But it destroyed the boss since we are in Imaginarium Theater, and I was using my Xianling instead of the trial one, but getting so unlucky to not even get my Diluc is insane. Next up is Suani, so just a bit of cryo is needed to freeze him, but you don't need a full cryo team, you need less cryo than the Overseer device, so just make sure to not use up all of your cryos and have just one okay cryo character for Suani. Next up is the last boss of the normal difficulty, and for this one and the last boss of the visionary difficulty you will need to plan ahead, as here is the giant Pyro Falcon boss from Natlan that needs Hydro in order to stop its special phase. I say plan ahead not only for the need for Hydro, but you might even need to keep Child from the beginning, or make sure you have a Furina or Nouvellette or anybody that can reach the boss while it's flying. I don't know if Xingqiu can hit or Yelan can hit with their homing attacks, but Yelan should do fine because she is a bow character. But yeah, anybody that can hit it you will kind of need it, because waiting for it to land to get hits in will most likely not allow you to get the star. And honestly, if you're playing Imaginarium Theater and you're not going for the stars, come on, bro. Anyways, and the other final boss is the Overseer device. They just love this boss since it's the second time in a row that it's here, and we mentioned it in the Abyss, but you will want to keep some decent cryo hit characters for this one, just like in the Abyss. So overall, while the elemental combo is one of the easiest ones, the trial characters sucked extremely badly. And also the combos were just bad for the beginning, and the bosses needed some prep to get the stars, mainly the Pyro Falcon boss and even the Overseer device. So all in all, this episode of Imaginarium Theater weren't a complete pain in the ass, so we got a small vacation from hell, but I would not get my hopes up, especially since we have yet to see the impact, of Nodecry's mechanics. And that is that for the July 2025 or 5.7 Abyss. As said, we will cover Stygian Onslaught in the version review, although I think you already have an idea of my thoughts on it. Anyway, I hope you liked the video. Like it, if you liked it, sub to the channel to help it out. I will see you soon in that version review. Goodbye.